Hi, welcome back to another episode of SEO On-Air. I'm your host, Aaron, and today we have Jacqueline Coombe, Head of SEO and Content Marketing at Webprofits. We talk about the importance of having a solid content marketing strategy, how to harness the power of AI, and how integrating SEO and PR can lead to an enhanced website traffic. I hope you enjoy this episode.
Since you've been in the industry for more than 10 years. So, what are some things that you've kind of noticed, especially related to content at least?
Oh God, the biggest thing would be quality over quantity. When I first started, it was all about quantity. It was how many links you could get into your website. It didn't matter how you got them. It was all about the amount of articles that you're producing day by day for Google to keep crawling your site and re-indexing it. Whereas now, it doesn't matter if you only do one piece of content a month, as long as it's a good piece of content, if it's designed for your audience and it's a strong message and value add, then you're going to have success.
And in terms of content marketing specifically, how have things, let's say, changed a bit? Are people changing the ways they market their content?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you still have to rely on your SERPs, so on your Google organic ranking factors, but it's also important to look at it holistically. Content doesn't exist in a vacuum. You need your readers to see it. So send it out to your email database, post it on external third-party websites, put it on your social media. Like, there are so many different channels you can bring people to your content. You should be taking advantage of them all.
So, let's kind of, if you don't mind, let's try to build a content marketing strategy. What would be a few key steps to start off if, let's say, I am an e commerce business?
E-commerce business, the first thing would be to look at the products that you want to be marketing. What problem do they solve for your customers? If you're a skincare brand, it could be, do they target acne? Do they target oily skin? Look at the problem that you solve first. Then it's about doing keyword research for that. So what keywords align with that pain point? What different terms are people searching for that you know you need your content to address for them to be able to discover your content? Because if it's not discoverable, then it's not worth it to your business.
Right.
From that, you need to then really kind of consider the structure. How much information is too much information? Are you just repeating yourself for the sake of increasing your word count, or are you still adding value? So while longer is generally considered better from a Google perspective, it's only if it adds value. So those would kind of be the first three parts for starting a content marketing strategy.
I think in terms of value, and we can get into this a bit later, we're finding a bit of difficulty with AI content since everyone is providing, let's say, a new standard of content. It's now very valuable to actually add in that extra bit of information.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Google has come out as of 2023 saying that they will not penalize AI generated content. They can't, because they're trying to generate their own AI product. But what you do have to do is make sure that if it's human generated, if it's AI generated, no matter what, it has to come back to quality. What purpose does your content serve for your clients or for your audience? And as long as you come back to that, your content should still be able to succeed, even if it is written by an AI product like ChatGPT.
All right, and we'll probably get into this in more detail a little bit later. But for content marketing itself, when you do put in those three tips, what are some ways we can probably track our efforts to make sure that those efforts are actually going into a successful meaning or into just a waste?
Yeah, so I mean, using Google Analytics, so the new product GA4, having page view tracking, event tracking, all of those pieces set up on key pieces of content is critical. Ideally, you want it across your whole website, but if that's not the case, then always on those pages. You can check Google Search Console for your impression share, for the click through to your website for different queries that you're ranking for, and that's really valuable as well. And also, if you've promoted your content through external platforms, have a look at those metrics. Don't just ignore them. So if you send it through your email database, how many open rates did you get? Who clicked through from the email to your content? Same from social media.
All right. So let's just say, for an example's sake, me as an e-commerce owner, I've started doing content marketing for my team and my website. I'm doing a good job. I've taken the tips that you've given me. I'm also now looking at the metrics as well. But being a newbie, I'm probably going to make a few mistakes. So, what are some mistakes that you've seen have been common, and what are some quick rectifications we can add as well?
Yeah, I mean, neglecting a call to action in your content. So as a business, the purpose of your content should be to drive people through to your product or service pages, because otherwise, why are they on your website? Like, what purpose do they serve? So not including a strong call to action, not giving people the opportunity to convert in a way that you want, but also giving them an opportunity to convert in a secondary way that they might find preferable at that stage. So it's not just about the instant sale. It's also about the email subscription. It's also about visiting other pages of the website. Where are you sending people when they enter your website? Another mistake would be not having the appropriate keyword search terms in there, or the appropriate metadata on the page for Google to discover it. Because again, if Google can't find it, then neither can your audience if they're searching.
Yeah. And so to kind of, let's say, I don't know how to kind of fully recap this entire thing. If I had to approach Webprofits, would the strategy be similar, or would it kind of be a more specific, finer tuned?
So every client is different, and anyone who tells you that they can give you a stock standard approach is lying. The technical elements of your website are so important to your success. If you have slow site speed, if you have lots of 404 pages on your website, if Google can't find your website, if it's not indexed, and you would be amazed how many people come to us and are just like, oh, I'm not doing very well organically. And it's like, you've de-indexed your entire website. If you don't have those technical elements in place, then you aren't going to succeed no matter how good your content is. And for that reason, every single strategy that we do at Webprofits is unique and custom to the business. It has to be tailored to their website. Their content strategy has to be tailored to their products and the goals that they have. So you can't do a stock standard release. It has to be custom. And we definitely have to take into account every single opportunity that might be out there before we determine an exact strategy that'll work for a business.
I don't know if you have the permission, let's say, to reveal this, but is there, let's say, a secret sauce that Webprofits use that you don't mind sharing with us?
Oh God, research. Like, everything comes down to research and performance. So it doesn't matter how good a piece of content is if it doesn't perform for you. I could create the most epic piece of content in the world, but if it's not discoverable, then who cares?
Right.
Really, the secret sauce is we do our research and we then report on it. We don't just set and forget. We go back to it. We see what could be improved, how we improve the click-through rate, how we look at the ranking factors, how we improve the performance on social media, and then we update it. So content doesn't just lose its value once it's published. It can keep value forever. And so, for an example, I have a piece of content that I created for an insurance company here in Australia. And I created that piece of content for them in 2015. And it is still their best performing organic traffic driver. It drives about 40% of their organic content traffic on its own, even though they've got about 350 other pieces of content. So content doesn't lose its value once it's done, as long as you keep it up to date.
Where does AI stand in terms of research? And what is your thoughts on the influence of AI in marketing?
Yeah, so for part one with research, it's good to get you started. It's good to start giving you some ideas. You can start spitballing, doing some prompts back and forth, getting an idea of where those pain points might land from like a clickbait headline perspective, or like kind of different trending topics that you can find. I think the thing you have to keep in mind with, in particular, services like ChatGPT and Google Bard and all those pieces is they are still very new. And sometimes if they can't find the information that they're looking for, they just make it up. So nothing that you get from AI content can be considered factual in and of itself. You have to still do your due diligence. You have to go and find the sources. You have to go find statistical data from published reputable sources to back up the conclusions that you're making in your content, because otherwise you lose that authority and trust and credibility that is required for Google's EAT platform and for their algorithm to understand and recognize the content as reputable. And if you lose that, you are unlikely to have significant ranking opportunities.
And with the whole Bard coming up with more and more features, at least, and ChatGPT already having that space in the field, with Bing AI also kind of running in the background somewhere, One question would be, do you have experience in these three tools? And the next part would be, which tool would you recommend people?
Yeah, I've used them all. We kind of try and have a play with all of them as they come out. Google Bard's still got a way to go, but it is improving week by week as we use it. I would say within kind of like the next month or two, it will be sort of close to where ChatGPT is now. But
Right.
it's linked to the search engine, which is a huge advantage for it. So in terms of getting the resources pulled through more correctly than ChatGPT, I would say Google Bard is going to have the advantage very soon. ChatGPT is great for when you input information and ask for summarization, when you ask for that spitballing, that like back and forth. And if you're asking for anything that doesn't require that external information validation. So if you're providing the data to it, then it writing the content is huge. So if you say, I've got XYZ statistics and I need you to include them in a piece of content of this length, it's fantastic. But you have to give it the data to ensure that it's accurate.
Right. So if I say, can you give me statistics for something, there's a good chance that it might not be accurate and relevant statistics.
Yeah.
It might be statistics based on, or yeah, completely made up. One question to ask is, how often are these made up statistics or made up information given through ChatGPT?
Oh God, I wouldn't have an exact number, but I've asked it several times for statistical data, and it's only been right about 45% of the time.
For AI, that's pretty bad.
Well, it just makes it up. It's like I've asked for a statistic for an Australian-based information piece, and if it can't find it in its database, it
Right.
just pretends that something's there because it feels like it needs to give a response.
So in some cases, let's say with ChatGPT having certain plugins where you can now connect to the internet and get, let's say, more relevant and updated information, would it be better if some people did use certain plugins to get their statistics right? Or can they use, let's say, Bard and another AI tool together to kind of get more accurate information?
Yeah, so using ChatGPT in conjunction with either a plugin or just doing the plain old normal Google searching yourself. So if you've got the piece of content that's been prepared by ChatGPT and you know that it would be more valuable and more authoritative with some statistical data, just do the Google search yourself and look for the reputable sources and just insert that information into it. And that way you know it's correct. You can hyperlink to the source, because that's another fault that ChatGPT doesn't have. It doesn't allow for source material to be provided. So you don't know where it's getting its information from. So if you do that part yourself, you know that it's right, you know that it's valid, and you know that it's applicable to your business, and you're not actually risking linking to competitors by accident.
And how much has, let's say, Webprofits used AI in terms of their workflow and other stuff? Or is it just more of testing?
Oh God, we use it every day. AI is that thing that if you don't jump right on board the train and just go with it, you're just going to be left behind. So
Right.
we use it for pretty much everything, spitballing content topic ideas, like headlines in particular, because once you've got the keywords, you can then input that information and ask for clickbaity headlines in a way that you would use sometimes old tools like Moz, things like that. Um,
Right.
we use it for summarization of report data. We use it to create landing page copy, which we can then tweak with our sales lens perspective. We use it for on-site content. I've even used it for generating an entire website's metadata. And it was actually, I would say, about 80% perfect. And I only had to go in and do real tweaks to the kind of like the things that only a human would understand and recognize would be resonating with the audience. But the rest of the 80% was pretty perfect.
So let's take away the human element of it and let's say the once in a while inaccuracies of data.
Mm-hmm.
Um, would you then recommend this tool to other people to kind of use in their workflows as well?
Yes, definitely.
And
It's
are there
really
any other
helpful.
cons?
I think the need to continuously upskill on the different plugins available, always keeping across what the capabilities are of the technology, would be a struggle for a lot of people. I mean, I'm in the industry and I find it hard to keep up with how many new platforms and programs and plugins are being released on a daily basis. So knowing the best ones, you really do have to follow the industry experts, because they do have the resources to be spending time on it every day. I know that we're running a ChatGPT course through Webprofits at the moment for small businesses to give them an understanding of how those platforms work, what they can be doing it for with their internal workflows. Because if you don't have someone to teach it to you, sometimes you just don't have the time to discover it yourself. So that's definitely a con of just how much there is of that AI industry that's coming out at the moment.
If everyone is using AI content to kind of rank their articles or rank their websites, how can you remain creative, and how do you stand above the rest if also you are using AI content too?
And that's where AI can't stand in a silo. It is built on the strength of the expertise of the person using it. So as the person inputting the prompts, inputting the data, you know the business and your product best. So only your what's the word I'm looking for? Your perspective on that content is what's going to make it the best. So what you add in is going to help. So from the pain point perspective, are you addressing what you've heard in customer feedback emails, what you've seen on social media as comments on your ad platform? All of those pieces that you can bring into it as your experience is what elevates a piece of artificial content to the next level. And that's how you're going to succeed with it.
All right. And the second part of that question was, how long can people succeed with AI? And do you think AI will be something that we see as a standard in the future?
Most definitely. It is designed to improve processes, to minimize workflow. And people need to see it as an opportunity to allow them to spend more time on being creative, on innovating new products, on spending time with your customers, instead of just doing the back end pieces that could be automated. So like a piece of content goes from you having to sit down and churn out 800 words on your own, which for a lot of people is very difficult, to instead working out your brief, working out what you want to say, inputting that data, and having ChatGPT write it for you in 2 minutes. You then edit it and take it live in the less time than it would take you just to kind of think of the first paragraph or two to write out. So AI is here to stay. It's what you do with it as a business and as an individual that's going to impact how successful it can be for you.
And one final word to those who fear that their job is going to be lost to AI and fear that their creativity might be stunted because of AI. What are some words of wisdom you can probably give them?
Find the ways that you add value beyond AI. So AI is never going to have the same experience, the same emotion, the same empathy that people have. Find the ways that you can be creative outside of just writing a piece of content. How do you invoke an emotion within your audience? Because AI can't do that for you, and that's indispensable to any business. So knowing your product, knowing your audience, that customer value opportunity is huge in the AI realm, because AI can't do it for you. You have to do it yourself. Upskill yourselves on how to nurture your customers, and you'll be fine within your business.
How do we train, let's say, marketers and content writers to keep up with SEO, keep up with AI, and kind of continue with the trends that are going on for 2023?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about an industry like SEO, it's not really something that a university degree is going to help you much with, because everything changes so fast. Like when I was at university, there wasn't a university course you could do that would teach you things like SEO. I think it only got introduced about 3 years after I finished university from a digital marketing perspective. And it changes so quickly that you have to be on top of the industry leaders. You have to be following Google's developer forum. You have to be following people like Neil Patel and Brian Dean and all of those SEO gurus
And
who
SEO
their
on
entire
air.
life, and SEO on air.
Right.
You have to be following people. You have to be engaged in the industry conversation. You can never just kind of sit back and go, "Yep, no, I know this." And I think that's why I've stayed in the industry so long, because it's always about learning. It's always about new experiences. And you can never just kind of sit back and say, I've been there, done that. because something else is going to change the next day.
Are there any 3 books that you would recommend our viewers and listeners to get into?
Yeah, so the books I really always kind of like refer back to are kind of older. They're more from when I was kind of like a bit experienced in SEO, but I was looking a bit more about how to do better at marketing. So I had the opportunity through my work to go see Jim Collins perform in person. And so he was presenting here in Sydney as a one-off, and it was phenomenal. I went away straight after that and read his book, Good to Great, I think 3 times. Just how he spoke and how he talked to what you could do with the right mindset was phenomenal. I love This Is Marketing by Seth Godin. It's just, again, it's like a core one that I think everyone in marketing should read. And really anything by Jack Trout. He goes back to the early 90s, and there's a reason for it. He's seen so much, seen so many trends, but really from his perspective, the thing that doesn't change is the people involved. So while the medium might change, you might have new platforms like TikTok, that has videos instead of written content like there was when he first started, which was published in magazines rather than online. But people don't change, and what they resonate with doesn't change, and that's the basis of all good marketing.
But for the SEO and PR side of things, because we pretty much focus on SEO on our end, one, I think, quick question would be, how do those two go hand in hand?
Yeah, so look, there's not really anything that you could do from a PR perspective that you can't also use to benefit SEO. Now, vice versa isn't the same. There's a lot you can do from an SEO perspective that isn't going to help your PR. But for PR, brand mentions, like links in sites, information about your business being out there is only helpful to your SEO. But something that a lot of traditional PR companies don't do, and that's neglected, is include the link. Because back in the day, traditional PR was all through traditional media. It was through newspapers and print publications and magazines. And that's just not the case any longer. There are very, very few publications that do not have a digital presence. So the inclusion of that link or that brand mention is super crucial, but also in a format that Google's going to be able to read it. So not just uploading the PDF of a magazine visual onto the website, because that doesn't really give you anything. Google can't read that PDF document unless you've like made it indexable. So really traditional media should be focusing on the SEO opportunity through links and brand mentions.
And like we did with the content marketing strategy, is there a way to kind of build a proper PR and, let's say, SEO strategy for an e-commerce business?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the standard PR perspective. It's like, where are your audience reading? Identifying that first. Where do you need to be in front of them that's not your website? So anything third-party industry magazines, industry publications, partnering with any of those sites is always going to be crucial from a PR perspective. Then it's about making sure they include that link, making sure you have the appropriate tagging. So if you can include a UTM, so a unique tracking code on that, so you can see how much traffic is coming from that publication itself, who's clicking on it, who's engaging. Checking with that third-party publication what their distribution methods are. Do they send it out to their email? Do they promote it on social media? Can they give you links to that so that you could then co-share it? Things like that.
And this might be the part where AI comes back into play, but is there a place for AI in this field as well?
I mean, AI can generate your press release for you. It can write the content and the copy, given you provide the best possible prompt for it. In terms of the promotion though, and the outreach, that still does need to be performed manually. I know that you guys would know from a link building perspective that there's so much unsolicited information. Relationships are key, and ChatGPT or AI programs can't build those relationships for you. So you really have to get in there and do the hard yards yourself.
I mean, like, there are some places where ChatGPT can probably give a helping hand, but again, like you said, it does need to come from the actual person. Since you mentioned link building, how have we seen link building change over the years?
Oh God. From
We might have a
super
little time
spammy.
for this.
I think that's the best word for it. Spam. Link building used to be spam. It was the dirty uncle in the corner that nobody wanted to talk to. And a lot of clients that came to us were like, "Oh, you're putting link building in my strategy. Why would you do that? Do you want my site to get penalized?" And I think the thing you have to come back to is you have to do it white hat. You can't take a shortcut. You can't suddenly build 200,000 links to your website and expect Google to be okay with it. So we primarily focus on directory link building. So NAP, name, address, phone number, and that's a really strong opportunity for businesses to get their name and contact details out there for people to find them, but also for Google to recognize the value of that link.
And with the way of how things have changed, have the strategies involving link building changed as well? Or is it still the same, just the outlook on link building has changed?
Our strategies have definitely kind of stayed the same. I know when I first started with Webprofits, you did use opportunities like private blog networks, like those big kind of like loop websites that just kind of like all fed value into each other. I think we stopped that in 2014 when Google came out and said, nope, that's naughty. We don't like that. So yeah, our strategy since then has largely been the same. We do follow kind of like Brian Dean's recommendations on link building from Backlinko, all done his course, all of those kinds of things. You try and generate the best possible content for people to want to link to. And then you go out and find the opportunities yourself by building those relationships if you can't.
All right. So what would be some of the advantages you've seen for link building? And we'll throw in PR as well, at least in the more recent years and not back in the day.
Yeah, so advantages if you do it right is it increases your domain authority score. It helps with improving the page rank of key content that you've created. So that's very much a kind of like a you benefit. It can also increase your traffic and your brand awareness if you put it in front of the right people. So that is again coming back to choosing your publication wisely. Who are you going in front of? It's pointless me creating an awesome PR piece of content on skincare if it's going out to a tradies magazine. Like, is that the ideal audience? Are they going to engage? Are they going to be interested? You could make it interesting to them, targeting outdoor weather, but again, it has to be so tailored. And that is still something that AI can't do. You have to be considering the opportunity and how that'll work for your audience. AI doesn't know that.
But what are some tips and tricks again that you could probably give more creators to kind of keep what you said in mind while also kind of getting their target audience in check?
Yeah, so looking at pain points, looking at products that you want to be producing, look at what your competitors are doing. Like they're a really good barometer for where the industry is looking to because they've got access to their database and their audiences, and you don't know what surveys they're running with their customers, or what they're seeing on their social media engagement. So using your competitors as a barometer for where the audience's interest is can actually be very effective.
All right. Okay. So some bit of research needs to be done. While I think that might be the entire theme of this topic today is that you do need to do some research in order to do it, whether it's AI or PR or SEO.
I'm the
But
queen of research and the queen of random facts that you will never need to know, because I have a very eclectic client base, which is lovely.
all right, quick, give me a random fact that I might not know.
Most toilets flush in the key of E flat.
Sorry, what? I have
Toilets flush
to.
in the key of E flat. I had a plumbing client and I learned all of these random things about toilets.
I'll have to get myself a tuning fork and check it out one day. But that is, I'm actually kind of shocked by that. You threw me off my entire question. I was hoping that maybe you would give me a fight and be like, oh, I knew that. And it's like, wait a minute, what? You've blown my mind.
Well, then mission achieved.
All right. So this might blow your mind, this question, but out of all the topics that we have discussed, is there a way that we can kind of connect all of them through a compelling story?
Yeah, so we've got some case studies on our website, of course, because case studies are lifeblood. A really good one would be Aussie Broadband. They're a client that started with us. They're a telecommunications company here in Australia, so you guys wouldn't have them over there. But they started with us in 2016 as a regional, rural-based telco company who wanted to disrupt the industry. They are now the fourth largest NBN provider in Australia, and they're taking on the big names like Telstra and Optus and doing it with Australians as the focus. And it's just a phenomenal story of how we built them up. But I worked with them most of the time that they've been with us, other than my maternity leaves, on their SEO and content marketing and generating content for that audience. And we built their organic traffic from, it's like 120 users a month to now they get over 100,000 organic visits to their website. It's just phenomenal what they can get. And the content that we created was just so targeted to those really nitty gritty IT tech questions that I never thought I would need to ever know in my life. And somehow I now know how to reset and completely reset my wireless router. I know how to connect different things in my computer that I never would have before. So that case study is excellent. I'll send you guys the link to include in the transcript. But what you can achieve with the business through a really strong marketing strategy that is focused on the audience is very much showcased in that case study.
And for that case study particularly, there was maybe no use of AI, or was there a little
No
bit
use of AI for that one. That one was, we started with them too early for AI. AI really only started for them last year, and the case study was just before that.
All right. So this would be more of a hypothetical question then. But if you did have AI back in the day with the same brand, how much different would it have been?
I actually don't think different at all. It would have been quicker to roll a lot of the things out instead of having to go back and forth with writers and with designers and all those things versus the tools that you can use now. But again,
the value would have been
human emotion, the value, it's all the same. It doesn't matter who generated it, whether it's AI or a copywriter that we outsource to. The value in the strategy comes from the minds of the people.
One question is that since you mentioned the kids, how does one manage a lifestyle like that where they have so much on their plate?
With the acknowledgement that you're never going to be perfect at it. Something's got to give in some way. So I like to kind of think of it as there's three elements to my life at the moment. And as I said, I've got a 2-year-old and a 10-month-old. So the first one is the kids and being a mother to them, and most definitely my most time-consuming and yet rewarding role. The second is my relationship with my husband and making time for us and as not just a family, but us as a couple, because that was what we started as, and that's ultimately what we're always going to be. And then the third part is work. And I love my work. I love the people I work with. I love the opportunity to see different things happening every day in the industry. And with three things that are also important, something's got to give. So I try and always make sure that it's not the same thing giving all the time. So, for example, my work took a back seat while I was on maternity leave, so I could really focus on my daughters and my husband. And now that I've returned to work, kind of my husband and I are taking a little bit of a backseat in terms of how much time we get to spend together, because he's also focused on his career and the opportunities there. And so we might be working kind of like 4 nights out of 5 of the week instead of spending time with each other, because we wanted to spend an extra hour with the girls while they were awake. And so we lose that time ourselves. So I think it's all about finding your balance, making sure that one thing's not neglected for too long, but also acknowledging that you can't do everything 100%. So letting something take a backseat for a little while, as long as you're on the same page with the person who's also part of that relationship or part of that point. Like my work, phenomenal during my maternity leave, stepped right back, didn't intrude, kind of like let me have that time. And now that's kind of stepped up. So it's about communication, and it's about making everyone involved understand what your priorities are so they don't feel like they're being left out.
But what are some steps an employee can take within their company to make sure that mental health is in check and not overstepping any boundaries?
Yeah, so for an employee, again, communication is so important. No one's able to read your mind to determine how you're feeling at any stage. I think it's important as a good manager to do that check-in regularly, to say, how are you feeling? How are you coping? What's your workload capacity like? Are you feeling burnt out on anything? Like, that's part of being a good manager. But again, they're not a mind reader. If you don't volunteer the information, or if you don't kind of step up and say, oh, I'm struggling a bit, then they can't help. So as an employee, it's about a communication. It's also about making time for yourself in a constructive way. So if you are really dreading an activity or something to do with work or anything, like, own it. Step up and say, I'm not interested in this, or I don't want to do this. And work with the people around you, whether it's your peers, whether it's your manager, whether it's HR in your company, to find a way to go about it. I know that's so hard when you're in the middle of it and you're struggling with it and you're trying to just get through it on your own, but it's so much easier when you try and talk to someone about it, because sometimes the things that you were feeling, when they're vocalized, you're like, oh no, actually, if I did it this way, I might feel a bit better about that. Or maybe I just can't deal with this at all right now. And you find a way with your company to step back and step away from that until you are able to take it on. So communication and sharing the load is key there, I think.
All right. Well, thank you for the call, Jacqueline.
No worries, Aaron.
Thanks for watching that episode. I hope you enjoyed. For more videos like this, make sure you like and subscribe.